Well, hello everyone. This is Dr. Ayleen, and this is Medicine Walk. Thank you for joining me. And today we're going to be talking about, it's a little bit of kind of a combination of the last talk that we did, where we talked about conflict, and another talk where we talked about grief. And it really is, hold on just a second. I just make sure I'm not echoing something, because when we make sure that the echoing is off, I just want to make sure that's off. Oh, okay, cool. Alrighty. So first off, if you want to comment, I've got the comments on. So if you comment during the program, then I will be able to, like, put on my glasses and see what it is that that you're asking, and then I can respond to it during the program. And if you end up not being able to either get through, or if you're watching this afterwards, after it's recorded, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments and I will answer them. So today we're talking about standing in the storm. And I know we've talked about the eye of the storm and how you create that safe place for yourself and for your spirit, and you can do it for other people. But it's just like a little section of sanity when things are going crazy around you. Before that, I lived in Louisiana when Hurricane Andrew came through. I was living in Slidell, Louisiana. And one of the things that, as the storm was moving through, the hurricane, the first part of it hit, and it was really almost very surreal as that was, the energy of that was building up, and as we're listening to it and rethinking, well, maybe we should have left, maybe not, but they said we'd be okay. But the power of a storm like that is really, really intense. And then all of a sudden it was like quiet. And we went outside and we looked, and the sun was shining and the air was very still. And once again, it was very surreal, where all that noise and the sound and the storm, and then all of a sudden other people are coming out of their homes, and they're just kind of, they live there, so they're just kind of casually looking around and doing a few repairs and doing things. So my husband and I, at that time, my then husband, we did that, and we were looking around and making sure that the things in the yard, or if there was anything in the yard that was loose, that we had secured, making sure it was all secured, checking the windows. And then there was a moment where all of a sudden I began to feel a breeze, and I looked up, and the sky had started to darken, and I look around and everybody else is just sort of, kind of looking around, and okay, and they finish up what they're doing, and everybody heads back inside, because we've got another part of the storm that's going to come through. And while the eye of the storm is wonderful, it's not going to last. It's an opportunity to rest. It's an opportunity to regroup, but it doesn't stay. Life isn't like that. There is no point when we can just say, you know what, I'm in the eye of the storm and I'm just staying here. Everything's going to be beautiful and it's all going to be wonderful and rosy, and I'll never be upset again, and I will always have peace. And that doesn't happen either. There will always be things. As we live life, we're always going to be dealing with something that creates conflict, or something that upsets us, or whatever it is that we are dealing with that comes into our energetic field that can aggravate us. And it's important to remember that life is supposed to be like that. And we can get caught up in wondering why. We can get caught up in thinking it's unfair. We can get caught up in the idea of wanting a shortcut. And the shortcut is really what I want to get to today, is that, nobody likes to be uncomfortable. Nobody likes to have things disrupted. Nobody likes to be, well, actually there are some people who kind of like the crazy, and they kind of feed off of it. And yeah, I think we all know a few people who are like that just seem to feed off the chaos. And hey, if that works for them, I love it for them. And generally, people like things to move along in a nice little stream of, okay, you know, it's not too great, it's not too horrible, we're right in the middle on the stream floating. And that's a wonderful way to be. And we can be that most of the time. And there are always going to be those times when we can't. And when those times hit, when stress comes in, when challenges come in, because there can be times when there are really major challenges that come into your life. And, you know, it really is kind of a helpless situation because there may be parts of it that just kind of have to run their course. And when we think about the idea of, well, I want to circumvent the discomfort, I work with a lot of people who experience grief. And one of the things that is a common sort of tendency is, I want to get out of my grief as quickly as possible. I want to get back to my life. I don't want to be upset. I don't want to cry anymore. I want to sleep at night. How do I get past where I am and get back to where I was? And the straightforward answer to that is that you're not. You're never going to be exactly as you were before because everything's changed, especially if it's a passing that's really close to you. And if you've experienced that recently, I'm sorry. I've had some of that in my family, and I know it gets hard, and I know it can be difficult. And just know that, you know, my heart goes out to you if that's what you're dealing with right now. And there's no way past it but through it. When we recognize the fact that we're sad, and we have every reason to be sad, and there's nothing wrong with being sad, and a part of that sadness is going to persist for a while as we process how this event has changed our lives. Now, even something great can create stress. Even something wonderful that you've been, you know, really looking forward to, there's a certain amount of stress that goes with that. It goes with any time we have change. So when you look at the, you know, some of the harder things that we go through, it really is very difficult to kind of get your feet back up under you. And that's what the eye of the storm is for. The eye of the storm allows you to get your feet under you. It allows you to take a breath. It allows you to regroup and look around you and go, okay, what is it that I can control? What is it that I can, you know, be able to work with as much as I can before the rest of this storm hits? And the rest of the storm is going to hit. But the thing is, the rest of the storm is also going to pass. And I created a saying that goes, life is fun until it isn't, and it sucks until it doesn't. And no matter how fun it is, at some point it's going to suck. And no matter how much it sucks, at some point it's going to be fun again. And actually, it's that second part that a lot of people have a hard time with, because they get caught in that hard sadness that just seems to be out of, you know, completely out of control. And you're responding to it in a reflex sort of way. So when you think about the times in your life when you've really felt helpless in the face of something that was tremendously painful, when you're in that moment, it's really hard to see that a year down the line, 6 months, and it could even be next week, you may feel differently about it. But in the moment you're in, it's sad and it hurts, or you're angry, or you're frustrated, or you're scared. All of those things are completely valid. And often when you try to find a shortcut around it, it actually makes the journey longer. Because when we try to get past the uncomfortable place a little too quickly, we don't learn the things from it that we're meant to learn. Because these things come into our lives to allow us to realize how strong we are, to realize that we can handle more than we think we can. And it also allows us to gain really important experiences, because when we deal with somebody else who is having that experience, we can be able to tell them, I know, I get it, and you can make it through this. If you have someone who never went through any type of depression, and they come up and talk to somebody who's depressed, and they're telling them all those little cute quips like, oh, just get more exercise, or try to get more rest, or eat better, or, well, just turn that frown upside down and improve your attitude, or, well, you should be grateful for what you have. When you're dealing with somebody who's in a serious depressive state, those are probably among the worst things that you could say to them when they're in that moment. Because what it does is it immediately tells the person who's in the depressed state that this person has no idea what I'm going through. I can't talk to them. I can't really relate to them because they can't relate to me. Maybe they don't know what it's like to feel that level of despair. And that's really sad because, you know, the person means well. They really do. And if you have somebody who you're dealing with and you have felt that sense of hopelessness, that sense of helplessness, that sense of just being really, really overwhelmed when the world just feels like it's caving in, and you sit down with that person and you look at them and you say, I'm really sorry that you're going through what you're going through. And while I don't understand your exact situation, I do kind of understand the process of what you're going through. And I'm here to listen. And I'm also here to assist you in any way. Can I get you a cup of tea? Or would you like to just sit here quietly for a while? Either way, I'm here. Now, the difference between the first, where somebody is trying to force someone, it's like, well, here's the things you need to do in order to not feel the way you're feeling, where maybe it's really important for that person to feel exactly what they're feeling. Grief is not, you know, a quicksand that you get sucked into. A way out of feeling what you're feeling to being able to process and integrate what you're feeling. So, you know, for those of you who remember when we talked about grief, getting real in every feeling. If the person needs to be in that feeling, needs to be in that place, or if it's you, if you are in a space where it's just overwhelming and it's hard and it's scary and you have very little control over what other people choose to do. If you're going through that, I'm sorry. And while I don't know exactly what you're going through, I have been in that neighborhood a lot. And I know from my experiences of feeling that that is a very real thing. I also know that you are strong enough to be able to get through it. It may not feel like it, but you are. You have faced, I mean, consider that if you look back on your life and you think of a time where it was worse, where you were more afraid, more helpless, where, you know, you were more angry, you were more frustrated. If you can make it through that, you can make it through this. Because if you can make it through, you know, if you can remember a time when it was worse, you made it through then, so you'll make it through now. Now, on the flip side of that, let's say this is the worst. Let's say you cannot remember any time that was harder, more difficult, more challenging, more frustrating, more scary. If you cannot, in all honesty, remember any time in your life when it's been worse than it is right now, that means that making it through this means that you'll be able to overcome anything else that comes down the road at you. Because surviving this means that you can survive anything else that comes down. And it can be hard because we don't know we're strong enough to overcome something until we overcome it. And there's a lot of really cool stuff that comes from this. We grow when we're challenged, when we have to really work for something, when we have to really work to make it through something. When we do make it through, man, there's this point when you just take a breath and you think, wow, I made it through. I got to the other side of that. There's nothing that can stop me now. And that's a really important thing to remember, because trying to take a shortcut, even though it hurts, even though you're upset, even though you're confused, even though you're scared, even though you really don't know what's going on. The biggest challenge is to stay with it. The biggest challenge is to not give in to it, because it isn't bigger or stronger than you are. It just seems that way. And I understand how it seems that way. Reach out. Reach out to somebody who understands, somebody who isn't going to give you the little patented lines, somebody who isn't going to try to fix you, because you don't need fixing. This is not something that you need fixing from, because of the fact that it's here for you to realize that you're more, that you're strong, that you're capable, that you're intelligent, that you come from your heart. Heart is an amazing thing. It can get broken a lot, but it's amazing how many times it can come back. That you can still have hope. You never have to surrender hope. You never have to say, I'm helpless, because you're not. That's a story. But it's not the one that's your reality, because you've made it through so much. You've survived so much. And not only have you survived, you've helped other people survive too. I'm sure of it. I'm sure you've been there for people when they were going through something really, really bad. And you were the one that kind of held them together and helped them see, you know what? You can make it. We can do this together. I'm not going to leave you alone. So reach out to somebody who can hold that space for you. And if you can't find anybody else, I'm here. Write in the comments, and I can be here for you. And I believe in you. And I know that whatever you're going through, it's here because of the fact that deep down you can handle it. And you have this amazing, amazing resilience inside of you. And I know, I don't know you. I know I've never met you. I know, well, some of you actually I have. And for those of you who I have, yes, we know what we're talking about. I know that you've been through stuff. I know you've been through worse. And you can do this. And for those who I have never met, which, hey, I hope to meet someday, you can do this because you're still here today. You're here now. You're in this moment. We're in this moment together. And you have the ability within you to overcome anything. There's nothing out there more powerful than you. There's nothing out there more powerful than your spirit. And I'm a firm believer in the power of spirit. I'm a firm believer in the power of that thing that when we're exhausted and we can't get up, that's something, that spark inside of us that allows us to climb to our feet and get going again. When you're too tired to do anything and yet you still do stuff. And maybe sometimes it's that hand reaching out and you grab that hand and that person pulls you up on your feet and, all right, come on, let's go. We got this. We can do this. That's the human experience. That is how noble and amazing and wonderful we are. The challenges aren't there to take anything away from us. They're there to remind us how strong we are and that we are capable. And yes, we're all going to lose our tempers. We're all going to feel upset. We're all going to feel hopeless. We're all going to feel all these things that make us human. All these things that allow us to have these human experiences because we grow through them. Like I said, if you're going through something really hard, I'm sorry. I really am. And on one hand, I wish you weren't. And on the other hand, I know that it's something that's going to serve you. When you think back in your life, how many times when you were challenged, were you able to overcome it? I mean, it could be as simple as maybe you were involved in a sport when you were in high school or elementary school or something, and you were able to win, you know, your race or your football game or, you know, whatever it is. It's the hard part that allows us to move forward. It's challenging and being hurt. Think of it this way. If you have somebody who wants to be an Olympic swimmer, and they come in there, it's like, okay, I'm going to be an Olympic swimmer. I want to be on the team. And they don't know how to swim. They're not very good. They don't have a whole lot of endurance. And well, that whole thing of getting up every morning and practicing, that's kind of, that looks like it's uncomfortable. It looks like it's kind of painful. How about if I just kind of go in and splash around a little bit and, but then, I want to be in the Olympics. If you don't want to go through the hard part, because, those athletes, they spend hours a day. They are constantly having to push themselves. They're constantly having to overcome. They hit that wall where they can't go any further, and then they push past it because they have coaches and they've got their teammates and they've got people saying, hey, come on, we got to do this. Come on, come on. Don't get weak. Don't give up. Don't give up. But we can't know how strong we can be unless we have to be strong. And there's an old Zen Buddhist saying about it. Aren't all Zen Buddhists saying old? I mean, well, I'm not sure if anybody's thinking up new Zen Buddhist sayings, but anyway, I digress. The saying is, once you learn to love hell, then you will always be in heaven. And what I take from that is, once you learn to accept circumstances that come in, that no matter how bad it is, no matter how difficult a situation is, if you can keep your center, if you can hold on to create that eye of the storm that helps you to regroup, that helps you to rest for a minute and catch your breath, once you learn to accept that sometimes bad things happen, on the other side of it, then you can have a little bit of an easier time being at peace with what goes on. If you're constantly facing the fact that the world is not what you want it to be, that people are not what you want them to be, that things are happening in the world that you don't agree with, okay, you can spend your time focusing on what you're afraid of. You can spend your time focusing on the fact that things aren't the way that you think they should be, which, I mean, maybe other people think they should be different. We're all in this together, which means that everybody gets an opinion on how things should be. And, one person's view of how the world should be would be totally different from another person's view. So the idea that by not becoming attached to saying, no, though, all of this should be the way I view it to be, all that's going to do is lead to frustration. All that's going to do is lead to pain inside of you because you're trying to fight against a current that you have no way to battle. You learn to flow with the current by staying true to yourself and saying, you know what, in my world, this is how things would be very nice, where people speak kindly to each other, where people treat each other well, where people are respectful for each other. And I think overall, most people would probably like the world to be that, except for those who like to stir the crazy pot, because they're out there, we know. So other than, the pot stirrers, the crazy pot stirrers, the rest of us, I think, kind of like the world being gentle and sweet and comfortable and encouraging and empowering and all of that. Well, if the world is not being that, that doesn't mean you can't be that. And that doesn't mean that you can't say, you know what, I don't care what's going on out there. I don't care what's going on out in the world and how people are treating each other. One, I am always going to believe that we are an amazing species and we're noble. And fundamentally, we're really good folks. We're really good people. And that anything that diverts from that is simply something that happens. We can't change the world if we can't change our ability to relate to it. And it may be a coworker who's driving you insane. It may be a family relationship that's on a really rocky ground right now. It could be a personal relationship that's on a really rocky ground right now. If we get trapped in trying to figure out a way to circumvent having to deal with the world the way it is, then we're going to spend a lot of time frustrated and unhappy. We're going to spend a lot of time banging against walls because the world is not going to bend to our will. It is not going to become what we need it to be, because as a species, just like when we get challenged, it's because it's a time for us to grow. It's a time for us to see how far we've come and how brave we can be and how ourselves we can be. The whole species, the whole world is going through that right now. So we're a part of something that's way, way bigger than just us and what's going on in our little worlds. There's an entire planet of people who are shifting thoughts, who are trying to find their way back to balance. There are some who are scared. There are some who are aggravating. There are some who are angry. There are some who want to live in love. And we can do all of those things. It's about understanding that it all kind of cycles through. So when you think about those points when you're scared, when you think about feeling helpless, you're not. It's not true. You can tell yourself that if you want. You're free to do that. If you like it, I love it for you. If that's your thing. And there are some people who really just kind of want to go with that. So if that works for you, okay. I would offer that it might be a little bit easier if you became a little more gentle with yourself and with the world. We're all still learning. We're all still trying to figure out our way. And it's okay. You're going to be all right. You're going to make it through this, and then it's going to be fun. And then after a while, it's going to suck again for some reason, because that's how life works. That's how we grow. When I look at how I deal with things now, and I consider how I dealt with them 20 years ago, and I see this evolution of, wow, stepping up into being who I am, which is nowhere near who I'm going to be. Because I know that the more I learn, the more I experience, and the same thing's for you too. The more you learn, the more you experience, the bigger your world gets. And the bigger a role you play in that world, because you become more a part of it, because you accept it for exactly what it is. Something in transition, change happening. Change is inevitable. And we can be able to deal with it. The Dalai Lama says that pain is inevitable. Suffering is a choice. We can choose better. We can understand that no matter what we're going through, there is going to be something cool at the end. And if nothing else is at the end, it's the knowledge that we were stronger than we thought we could be. So don't worry. Stand in the storm, because it's making you strong. Just don't give up. And when you feel like giving up, reach out and talk to someone who can help, who can hold that space for you. We're going to be okay. All of us. So thank you for joining me. Oh, and for those of you who are in the San Francisco Bay Area, this coming Sunday, I will be doing the Easter service at the church where I'm the associate pastor, and that is the Center for Creative Living. It is located at 1460 Cole Circle, Suite C in San Jose, California. And we start at 10 o'clock in the morning. And so I'll be doing the service. So if you'd like to come and meet me, and if you come and say that you came from the YouTube channel, then I will give you a free copy of my book, Frequencies. So otherwise, thank you for joining me. And please like, comment, share, and subscribe because I love seeing where all the subscribers come from. And like I said, send me a comment. You can send me a comment through the YouTube page, and I will answer it. You can also comment to me through our Facebook page at Medicine Walk with Dr. Ayleen. So you can reach me through that. You can reach me through the website, medicinewalkwithdrayleen.com. And you can also get me at my office at www.the-healing-house.com. So with all those ways to reach me, I'm here. And like I said, if you can make it this Sunday here at the Center for Creative Living, please do so. It'd be a pleasure to meet you. So thank you for joining me. And until next time, I wish you balance and I wish you blessings from my heart to yours. Love you. Bye-bye.